What is up, Kryptonians, and welcome to my video breaking down Season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. If we're being technical, the more emotional, nostalgic members of the fandom might refer to this as Daredevil Season 4, but having watched the season, it doesn't actually feel like Daredevil Season 4, so I'll just leave that to y'all discretion. You guys know the drill. Since this is a TV review, a TV season review, I'm not going to be revealing everything, not going to be spoiling everything. I think we're exactly like 2 weeks and 2 days removed from when the finale aired, so I don't want to spoil anything. I want to give people a chance to catch up, give people a chance to check it out if they haven't already. But at some point in this video, I will put up the spoiler warning thing and I will get in depth about spoilers in the finale for the show, because there are some things that I have to talk about because I'm compelled to talk about them. Now that we've got all the disclaimers out of the way, welcome to Daredevil Born Again Season 1 or Season 4 of Daredevil. That just depends on how you look at it. Before I even get into the season itself, one thing I do want to say is that I am grateful as a fan of Daredevil the character and a fan of the Netflix Daredevil show. Netflix Daredevil show is one of my favorite television shows of all time, and it gave me an even deeper love for the character of Daredevil, a character that I already was a fan of going all the way back to when he first showed up in the Spider-Man animated series back in the 90s. So I am just grateful, and I'm sure that a lot of longtime fans are grateful, because we were very bitchy when this show got taken off of Netflix. And we were bitchy for good reason. This deserved another season. This deserved a continuation. These characters meant so much to us, and you know, when you get emotionally invested, this is the type of shit that you hope that it eventually leads to. You hope that you bitch enough that eventually the creatives that be, the people that are in charge of running the whole thing, they decide that it's worth bringing the people back or bringing another season back. Like, I'm still hoping that that happens with Spectacular Spider-Man. Granted, I've kind of accepted that Spectacular Spider-Man is only going to have 2 seasons and they're not going to bring it back, but still, it's something that's fun to bitch about every now and then. Another thing that you have to get through when you're talking about the show is that it is very clearly and obviously 2 different shows. We knew that going into it because of some of the things you heard about the production. Then you heard that there was some turmoil behind the scenes. You heard Charlie and Vincent basically went to the higher ups and were like, yeah, this is dog shit and we're not doing it. So apparently they scrapped everything they were going to do before. They brought in some new showrunners and they decided to run a different show. And you can definitely tell while you're watching the show that it feels like 2 completely different directions. Sometimes that works to the show's benefit and sometimes it doesn't. Like, there are some things from the old direction of the show, which apparently was going to be a lot more lawyer focused. Some of the court scenes in the early segments of this show are really good and do remind you of some of the peak court segments from the Netflix Daredevil show. But there's no denying that if I watch the season as a whole, the new stuff that they put in, the new shots that they filmed, the new direction that they went in with the characters, whatever they did after the overhaul, a lot of that shit just speaks to me a little bit more. It appeals to me more, and I think that's where they get most of their best material for this season of Born Again. The show is definitely just as gritty as the original show. It's filmed in a different way, like the cinematography is different. It's also absolutely just as violent, maybe even more violent than the original show, and they actually allow F-bombs to drop. Like, we heard Matt Murdock say an F-bomb during the season, so that's pretty cool. I did like certain characters and different aspects that popped up, like BB Urich being a part of this season. She's Ben Urich's niece. She has this thing called BB Reports where she gets to interview like random New Yorkers about all the shit that's going on in New York at the time, and I feel like that's pretty cool because it gives the citizens a new perspective. We get to actually hear from the citizens and it makes them kind of a character within the show. It reminds me a lot of the first Spider-Man movie. First Spider-Man movie, you get to hear what New Yorkers' opinions are on Spider-Man and how divided they are, and then at the end of the movie the people rise up and like they want to help him against Green Goblin. So in that way there was like a really great payoff for it. We haven't necessarily seen the payoff yet, but I do like the fact that they're including that perspective. I also really like the stuff that they did with White Tiger. White Tiger is not in much of the season. He's only in the beginning episodes. The actor, his name, unfortunately I'm forgetting his name at the moment. I am really bad with names. This is a really bad time to be bad with names. The actor who played White Tiger passed away, so rest in peace to him. He did a great job with White Tiger in the short amount of time that we got to see him. But a big thing in this season is about Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk and the parallels that you can draw between them. The way that they parallel these 2 characters, not just visually but narratively, was one of the highlights of the season for sure. And it all ties into this overarching theme of the war against vigilantes. Like, Wilson Fisk is definitely leading an anti-vigilante thing. He forms an anti-vigilante task force, and this show is really more so about Daredevil like coming to terms with who he has to be, who he wants to be, becoming Daredevil again, how that ties into Punisher, how that ties into the anti-vigilante thing. Like, that's all decided over the course of the season. I will say that as a part of this new show, there are going to be some side characters that pop up. The side characters, in my opinion, are very hit or miss for this show. They make some creative decisions involving Karen and Foggy. Like, Foggy and Karen are not a big part of the season. If you saw the premiere, you know exactly why Foggy's not a big part of it. I was hoping Karen would actually be a bigger part of it, but no, she doesn't. She shows up like at the very end of the season, and we'll talk about that later. But you could just feel their absence in the show when you watch it. You can just tell that it's probably not a good idea to leave like the heart of the show, arguably, like out of the show. Like, Matt is great, and Matt's a great character, and he's damaged, and he's going through a lot in the season. He's pretending to be okay with everything that's going on when he's not okay. Part of the greatness of Netflix Daredevil was the dynamic between Foggy and Matt and Karen, and that's not here this season. And they've put some side characters in the place of Foggy and Karen. There's just no getting around it. They're just not nearly as well developed, not nearly as compelling or as interesting as Foggy and Karen. They don't have a dynamic with him that we're supposed to care about. BB Urich is one thing, and I think his name is Danny or something. He works for Fisk. He's kind of a fun character. Kirsten is kind of like, ugh, they don't really do anything with Kirsten to the point that makes me feel invested in her as a character. And also, if you'll excuse me, I have like a tiny mini rant to go on about a character named Cherry in the show. Fuck you, you bitch ass nigga, you sausage bowl cunt. I can't stand you. You're the worst character in the entire show, hands down. The nerve of you to talk to Matt Murdock like you somebody. You think just because your name is Cherry that you can't get popped? Bitch, I don't care about you. I don't care about what you be talking about. The show tries to act like you have some grand, long relationship with Matt Murdock that we don't see and don't give a shit about. You're a turd with glasses. You don't do anything in this show except sit around and lecture Matt about shit. You bring nothing else to the table. You're kind of useless, actually. I wish the actor nothing but the best. I wish the character stepped out into Hell's Kitchen and got sideswiped by a taxi cab going 90 miles an hour. Now that I got that out of the way, we're all good. Now we can focus on the rest of the show. Sorry about that. I have my moments. Beyond the side characters being very hit or miss, another thing was the episode quality. It feels like episodes 2, 6, 8, and the finale, episode 9, it feels like those were the strongest episodes, and then every other episode had strong moments, but it also had some very weak things narratively going on. If there is nothing else to praise about this season of television, if you don't like anything else, you have to praise the acting and the performances of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. And when everything else is like maybe not as good, the quality has fallen around them, their performances are the things you're most invested in. It feels like a show that feels like a mixture, an amalgamation of the previous Daredevil shows and then something new completely. It's a little bit more comic booky, it's a little bit more raw, it's not nearly the kind of show that Netflix Daredevil was. I think it's a good looking show from a cinematography standpoint, although it does feel like it's shot more for TV than maybe the Netflix show, which feels like maybe it was shot a little bit more cinematically. Use of a lot of different techniques like dolly zooms and stuff like that, like aspect ratios changing. Obviously some of the different scenes they use where colors are a big factor in the emotions of the scene. There's going to be some of that that's going to remind you of the Netflix show. If there is one thing I hope that improves for season 2, it's the CGI, because the CGI was definitely a mixed bag overall, if I'm being honest. Narratively, I will say without spoilers that Muse was one of the things I was most disappointed in with this season. Muse is a pretty fascinating character in the comics. In the show, they just kind of half-ass and half-step through his arc, and they don't really deliver on it in a way that felt satisfying. Now, it's time to talk about the finale, so that is a spoiler warning in case you have not seen Daredevil Born Again, or if you haven't seen the finale. I'm going to be spoiling a few things here to wrap up this video. First of all, the Daredevil and Punisher team up, I mean, it was cinema. It was everything that we needed it to be. Frank and Matt had a great scene earlier in the show where they got to like interact and argue, and like, you know, Matt got to kind of let loose on him a little bit. I thought that was a great scene. Them teaming up and taking down a room full of like corrupt cops, like that was amazing. There was blood on Punisher's part. There was great choreography and acrobatic shit done on Matt's part. The way that they banter and they bicker throughout the fight and afterward is also like a highlight. Like they're basically a married couple at this point, man. It's kind of hilarious, the semi-love triangle that pops up when Karen shows up, and you can tell that Frank like shaved himself just to clean himself up for Karen. Conversation that Matt had with Karen where he's talking about the different heartbeats of his and hers and Frank's and stuff like that, and like, oh, it must be adrenaline. Like if you guys have seen that scene, you know what I'm talking about. Karen in general returning to the show, it just gave the finale that extra juice. Karen fits so well with these characters. It seems like she has chemistry with everybody. So So I'm really happy that it appears in season 2 and beyond, possibly, she's going to be around and she's going to be a big fixture in everything that happens, because it just did not feel the same not having Karen around. In place of Karen, as far as like a pseudo love interest for Matt, you have Heather, and Heather was actually okay for most of the season. Don't know how much I actually bought their relationship or anything, but she was fine. Towards the end is when they really started to go off the rails with her as a character. I don't really understand how this show exists in the history of the MCU, so everybody knows what Wilson Fisk has done. They know what he's capable of. Him doing bad things, being a bad person, should not be beyond the pale. Heather's refusal to listen to Matt was a little bit weird, and then even if they like broke up after that hospital scene, I know that Matt's a whore, and I know that he has a lot of women that he has feelings for, but bro, I don't think saying Karen's name in front of your girlfriend in the hospital is, I don't think that's a good idea. In fact, I think that's probably the worst idea you could have, buddy. And even then, she was staying at Matt's house, right? Like, Matt's house, his apartment got blown up in the end, so does she care about that? Does she have questions about that? She just takes a job with Fisk at the end of the season, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so she doesn't care? Like, she's cool with it? She doesn't have any questions? Granted, Matt was acting crazy there for a while, but I feel like he took a bullet for this man and is still telling you he's dangerous. I feel like you should probably find some part of you that's willing to listen. Speaking of Fisk, holy shit, we got a kill in the finale for the show that rivals the car door kill from season 1 of Daredevil. There's a scene here where he like, I don't even know how to fucking describe it. He like face mushes somebody, or he like crushes someone's head, but not completely. Like he crushes their head and it ends up crushing their face. Bro, it was so fucked up. I had to pause the show for a second and just like stop, like, holy shit, did they actually allow them to go through with this shit? He also like turned all the lights out in New York. I'm very curious about how Spider-Man is gonna react to all of this. The season finale basically ends with Matt and Karen and a bunch of cops that might or might not be on their side, and Cherry's useless ass, of course, is still there. Matt's basically saying Fisk has an army now, we need to get an army. But could this actually be a segue into the Defenders? Maybe the return of the Defenders? Still pretty confident that at least Jessica Jones is gonna show up in season 2, but I don't know, that's something interesting. I want to see the Defenders show up. I want to see if Sony can get their heads out of their ass and allow Spider-Man to show up for a brief second. I didn't enjoy it or like it nearly as much as I wanted to, with some of the changes and some of the weird mixture of old and new, and then some of the things that I feel like they didn't deliver on. Daredevil Born Again was solid enough. I'm gonna give it like a 3 out of 5. I think 3 out of 5 is fair. That's how I feel about the season overall. But guys, those are my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again. Tell me, what did you think about it? What would you give the season out of 5? Put that in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.